Hi everybody and welcome to another Kalicube Tuesdays. Today I'm here with Nitin Manchanda, who's one of my favorite people, such a nice friendly chap who's incredibly intelligent. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jason, for having me here. And yes, you are my favorite as well. I always enjoy speaking with you. And I remember that Brighton SEO chat where I think we were in the party. However, we were talking about SEO. That's sad, but I think I really enjoyed that conversation. Thank you
Brilliant.
for being so awesome.
These conversations about SEO and about marketing are so much fun, but you get the intro song. A quick hello and we're good to go. Welcome to the show, Nitin Manchanda.
I was waiting for it. Thank you so much. I love it.
And we'll be talking about cracking the code, secrets to enterprise SEO success, and more specifically, talking about it from an agency point of view or a freelancer point of view. When I'm working with an enterprise, a large-scale enterprise on SEO, how do I help them in the most effective, efficient manner with their organic traffic? But before that, on Branded Search and Beyond with Jason Barnard and Nitin Manchanda, we're going to look at your brand SERP. I brought up Botpresso, excuse me, my mistake. I think that's a great name. And it's going to be easy to brand because it's original. And this is the generative AI result from Google, which isn't bad. I would suggest that you would want to get your site up in the cards up there. That would simply suggest that your site doesn't yet have a sufficiently clear explanation of who you are and what you do. But here it says Botpresso is a technical SEO agency based in Berlin, Germany. The company was founded in 2020 and helps clients with SEO strategies for long-term gain. Botpresso's team of SEO professionals have experience from all over the world. Botpresso's name is a play on crawling bots and espresso. That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Is that a fair description of your company?
Absolutely. Yeah. We are high on caffeine all the time and we need our crawling bots and that's it. Everything else we have to scale a brand.
Coffee and bots. Brilliant stuff. And then I looked up your name and I thought this was really sweet. I was in Las Vegas. Well, I wasn't. I was emulating at Las Vegas. And we came up with a Google map of Delhi, New Delhi. But you're still there, Nitman. So that's, if anybody's interested in brand SERPs and knowledge panels, join the Kalicube knowledge panel and brand SERP support group. And we talk about this stuff all the time, why we might have got a Google Maps there from New Delhi, even though we were in Las Vegas. That's curious. And I haven't dug down enough to find out. But then I thought I would, compare Google AI versus Bing's AI. And I think you'll agree here, for the audio listeners, you can't see it. Would you agree, Nitin, Bing is doing a better job? Who is Nitin Manchanda?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think the map that you were showing, right, that is from another Nitin Manchanda, who's based out of Delhi, and he's an astrologer. So in fact, when I, I think when I joined Trivago, I searched for my name on Google and that guy was appearing everywhere. And I was like, hey, there's like massive brand conflict. So I need to work on that. So I did not put like any extra or explicit efforts, but I just worked on my profile. I started speaking more. I started publishing. And I think now I own a decent space if we talk about my branded SERP there. Yeah, but this Google, listing that you see there,
coming back to the astrologer, so it just made me realize the fact that we're in Las Vegas doesn't matter if you're looking at the stars.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
It can show you need Delhi, which is lovely. So Google got it right.
Yeah.
And sorry, this result of Google versus Bing. I mean, Bing does really well. Nitin Manchanda is the founder and chief SEO consultant at Botpresso, and Google simply doesn't even try. So that was our interesting brand SERP today. Everybody needs to work on their brand SERP, so it's not a criticism of you. Even I, who've been working on it for 10 years, keep working on it day in and day out. So let's get on to the topic for today, cracking the code, secrets to enterprise SEO success. My first question is, what is an enterprise? How do you define that?
Yeah, well, for me, I think if you differentiate enterprise SEO with SEO, the normal term, right? When we talk about it, so I think enterprise SEO is more scale. When you're working for a brand where we have like maybe millions of landing pages, you're solving a problem at a massive scale, which is going to impact a lot of users, maybe millions of them, right? That is where the concept of enterprise comes, because there, whatever problems you're facing or solving, they're at massive scale. So with this scale, there are like 100 other problems which come along, and you need to look at each one of them and look at the impact that you can potentially bring.
So the question of enterprise is more the size of the site than the size of the company.
Exactly, yeah.
So huge sites like Trivago, where you used to work, millions of pages, hundreds of millions of pages?
Definitely, yes. So
okay,
Trivago
so where
is
does
a good example of
start?
enterprise. Well, there is like no like official definition of that, right? So if you're talking about a website with 10,000 pages, but they are massive, and deliberately they want to keep the number of pages to 10,000 and not increase to 10 million, right? But the problems that you're solving there, maybe you're producing content at scale. So even if you're producing content at scale for 10,000 pages, that's not a tiny thing, right? You can't just make two people sit and write this content, right? You are solving these problems using technology, right? Or maybe even if you are going in a manual way as well, so you are building processes, you know, the impact is going to be massive. So yeah, it's about the impact, it's about, you know, the approach that a company is taking. So yeah, I would say like there is no magic number which can be considered here as you know, the number of landing pages. But yeah, probably if you're talking about a website with 100 pages, maybe a blog, even if it's a big company, right? But if you have a WordPress blog with 100 pages, right, you should not be calling that as enterprise SEO, because that's rather tiny. If you want to get the content done even manually, it can be done in a week's time, right? If you want to fix everything manually, you can still do that. You do not need that scale approach there.
That's a really important distinction, because we're starting to work with a huge company, but they've got a tiny website. So that's not enterprise SEO, even though it's an enterprise level enterprise, as it were. So we're looking immediately at scale, which is something I've never been particularly interested in and never really worked on. Not interested in it. I've been intrigued by it, but nobody's ever asked me to do it. So the first thing is, how do you get the clients? You were saying it's a year-long process to actually sign them, so you can't be in a rush.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So I think again, here I'll be talking about personal branding, even though I'm not great at it. But I think when I started doing webinars for SEMrush, that was like 5.5, 6 years back, right? Since then, implicitly, it started to build. I had no idea, you know, that I'm working on my personal brand as well. I was just doing it for fun because I was loving speaking to people like you, right? So I started doing that, and gradually I realized that I'm building my personal brand. Because when I went to India, or even, you know, after that, I was in Brighton SEO for a conference, and there, you know, I met Craig Campbell, and he's a massive name, right? But he was there. I was standing in the queue. He came to me. He's like, "Hey, mate, good to see you here." I was like, man, come on, like someone like him knows me. That's a big thing. And that's when I realized, hey, you know, personal branding is pretty awesome. And then I met like a lot of amazing people there. And I'm a big fan of Aleda Solis. She was also there, and we went for lunch as well. So I think, yeah, this was all possible because of personal branding, what I was doing for the community, right? And now this personal brand stayed with me. And when I decided to build my own brand, Botpresso, and yeah, I spoke with my wife. Of course, I mean, you know, saying no to a good salary check and starting something from scratch is not easy. So I was thinking, okay, well, is it the good time? I sat with my wife. I was like, hey, you know, I want to do it, because after 5 years, I don't want to, you know, feel regret about it that I didn't even try. So I want to try it. I want to give it 12 months to see whether I can, you know, make it work or not. But luckily, in 3 months' time, I was at the same run rate that of my salary. So I was like, okay, it works totally. And now I think in the first year or so, whatever business I got, I would say like 80% of that came through my personal brand. So people who know me directly or indirectly, and then I started to get more business through word of mouth. Right. But initially it was like, you know, personal brand. So people, they say they saw on LinkedIn that, hey, I started my own consultancy. They were like, hey, we see you doing that. Let's work together. I was like, yeah, let's get on a call. And these calls were also, you know, pretty quick. So we were speaking about this, right? That enterprise closing an enterprise contract is not easy. It takes a lot of time, right? But I'm talking about an enterprise client where I got on a call with the CTO of the company. It was scheduled for 30 minutes, but in 23 minutes, we wrapped up the call. And the last statement from him was, okay, please send me the contract and let's get started from tomorrow. I was like, man, this is crazy.
Right, so that's a really interesting point. I mean, it's wonderful as well. If you have a personal brand, people know what they're getting into when they talk to you. And we find this as well at Kalicube. In less than half an hour we can sell to the clients because they say, well, I know what you do. I know what I want.
Yeah.
The question now is how much does it cost and how does it all work?
Mm-hmm.
So the personal brand is hugely important. And when we talk about enterprise, you're right. You can have enterprise size websites from smaller companies where the CTO can make the decision on a half an hour call. And that's how you can get the quick income whilst you're waiting for that year-long process with huge companies who have incredibly complex contract and agreement structures and decision structures. So that's the secret for you, building the agency with those enterprise-sized sites, but with mid-sized business.
Definitely. And I personally love enterprise SEO because I was a global head of SEO for Trivago and then moved to Omeo. And now I'm working with some massive brands. For example, there's this company called Lenskart that's based out of India, but they're a massive international brand. Working with them. And then I also am working with Headout, which is a travel tech based out of India. They are a US registered company. But yeah, there are a lot of not international, sorry, but enterprise level, brands I'm working with. And I love that. I love the challenges which are coming my way every single day. And it is,
well, what are the challenges was the question. So we've got through how do you get the clients. Now, what are the challenges that they face that I wouldn't expect as somebody who hasn't worked on these massive sites?
Definitely. So I can talk about some of the core challenges, which will kind of summarize the answer that I want to give it to this question. So I'm working with a client where they have 80 million landing pages, 80, right? And now when I looked at the product, right, I was trying to understand how many of these pages roughly, because you can't go, of course, one by one for every single page, but I high level wanted to understand how many of these pages are serving unique content or bringing unique value for search engine bots as well as users. And when we did some analysis, the number went down to 1.5 million. So we said, okay, we do not need to index 80 million landing pages. That is where our crawl budget is completely exhausted, and Google is not even able to, crawl the right pages, which can potentially bring business for us. So we reduce the number, and now we are at 1.7 million. We are still, optimizing it further, right? I think the next iteration we are going live with roughly 1 million pages, and then we will probably run a couple of more iterations. And the aim is, if we get the number down to less than 500,000, right, that would be great. And then here, so this is the problem, right? Indexation. So they were indexing literally everything, but then when I scanned the entire system, I suggested them not to basically index everything and focus on the pages which can potentially bring you traffic. So crawl budget optimization is one problem that I'm solving here. Indexation is another problem, which also brings the problem of cannibalization. If you have 80 million pages, you probably have thousands of pages which are talking about the same stuff. Why do you want to have thousands of pages talking about the same stuff, right? So solving that problem so there are a lot of problems which are connected, and of course, content. So if you have 80 million pages, how would you ensure that you have kind of unique value proposition on every single page? It is impossible, at least in this particular case, right?
Yeah. And
so solving a lot of problems together. Yeah.
No, you mentioned a unique value proposition, which is a very marketing thing to say and not an SEO thing to say, which I think is a huge change in the SEO industry over the last couple of years, is moving to become marketers and thinking in terms of unique value proposition. Are we being useful? Are we being helpful? Are we providing an answer or a solution to the user?
Definitely. I think if you are working on SEO only to generate traffic, you are on the wrong track. I'm sorry. But if you're thinking about generating traffic, which is meaningful, which can bring you the dollar value, I think that is where you should be thinking about. And here, my goal was to understand, okay, if there is someone who's searching for something XYZ, and I have 1,000 pages which are internally competing, right? No point. I can rather focus on, okay, what is the most eligible page where I have content which is probably answering the user's intent in the best possible way, right? If I'm able to focus on that page and bring it up, then that is definitely going to bring me the dollar value as well. Then just, making everything index and then bring users on the website and they say, hey, no, this is not what we were expecting. We will never come back to this website, right? So I wanted to make sure the experience is smooth, and we are not just getting a user on the website, but we are getting them and keeping them with us forever. So that's the mindset I had there.
Right. And it's part of your way of convincing your clients to reduce the number of pages in this particular case by saying that, because a lot of people would say, well, 80 million, the more, the better.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think these conversations are difficult, especially with the people who do not understand SEO. And I think the good part with enterprise SEO is you don't have to go all in straight away. If you say, hey, 80 million pages, tomorrow, let's go to 1 million, it can also give you massive dent on your revenue, right? And when you're talking about 80 million pages, and even if they were getting, let's say, just one session per month on every single page, yeah, you are talking about minus 79 million. They would not agree to this, right? But you can think about A/B test. You can think about running experiments around it. So you can say, hey, let's do this on these 1 million pages, right? So on risk, what we have is one. So again, same theory, right? One, let's say one session per landing page. So one on risk, what we have is 1 million landing pages. However, you can run another risk analysis on top of that and pick the pages which are not generating any traffic. So you're not losing. If you're looking at last 6 traffic generated by these pages, let's talk about pages which did not generate even a single session in last 6 months, and let's focus only on them to see what is the impact they're bringing. You can run those experiments and prove the value that you were talking about, and once you are able to prove that, then you can also convince the management or the stakeholders who are involved here that, hey, this works. Look, we were looking at these KPIs and here I'm able to prove that. And they would say, okay, that looks good, let's scale it up. So from 1 million you can go to 5 million to 10 million to 20 and so on. You can scale. You don't have to go all in.
Right. Yeah, which is something I'd be very bad at, is doing it in steps instead of just going all out and doing it in one go to see what happens. But obviously I would only ever do that with my own website, not a client's website. What tools do you use for this? Because at that kind of scale, as you say, you're not going to be using Search Console.
Oh, definitely. So Search Console is definitely like one tool that I use. However, Search Console is not the only tool I use. So
because it doesn't go deep enough.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So what I use is Oncrawl. That is my favorite, I would say, enterprise level SEO tool. And of course, that comes from France, yeah, your country. So yeah, I love that tool. And they also give you an option of integrating Google Search Console, Google Analytics, and your log file data as well. So I think with all this awesomeness at one place, it makes my life super easy analyzing these different pages. And what I use on, so that is a implicit on-crawl feature, segmentation. What I do is when I'm crawling a website, I create segments so that I know, how many pages I have in bucket A, which is, let's say, page type, let's say store pages, and then I have category pages, product pages, for instance. So you can create those segments. And that makes my life easy because now I know, for example, category pages are the most important pages from business perspective. So I can focus only on them. And then I look, hey, category pages are bringing 90% of the business, but out of 80 million, I have 79.5 million pages, which are some other types. So I know where the problem is and I can easily solve those problems. Yeah.
Right. When you're doing segmentation, you can segment by page type, but can you also segment by category and by topicality, or just category?
Yeah, everything, like all the data you have with you. So you can use URL slugs to segment that, right? You can also use, let's say, anything that you have in Google Analytics or Google Search Console. So for example, if you want to say, hey, all the pages which brought me at least 1,000 sessions in last 1 month, that is my premium pages. You can create those clusters as well, yeah. And that's,
and then you export the million that you're going to destroy, no index, or whatever you decide to do with them, and say to your client, this is the data set, and you can make sure that it's representative of a segment in one way or another.
Exactly.
So you can then compare it and look what happens to that segment. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you can definitely do that, but I think that's not scalable, right? Because right now they're 80 million. Tomorrow the number increases to 100 million, right? You have 20 million new pages. So would you be going again and taking the export, right? That is the problem. So what I try to do is, so when I see, okay, these are the problematic, let's say 79 million pages, I try to understand the pattern there. And once we have the patterns, we can find a programmatic solution that, okay, now in the backend, we have a rule which says, okay, if you have a page with less than this much content, then it is no index by default. So by doing that, we are fixing it once for all. We don't have to go there every week or every month and see, okay, what are the new pages which are causing problem? Because now we have a default solution. And if you want to, just review it every now and then, you can always do that.
Right. So you're looking for sustainable and scalable solutions with systems. And that's the thing, is having a system, and that's what machines love. And that's presumably what Google loves.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm from an engineering background myself. So I do not look for, or do not, look to solve temporary like problems temporarily. So I'm always looking for patterns and thinking about how I can fix it once for all, so that I don't have to come back to this problem. We have a default solution which works like magic. So yeah, I love that.
Right. And how do you deal with content at scale?
Well, yeah, that's one of my favorite topics. When I was
Oh, jolly
working
good.
at Omeo, so I'll tell you a story as well. So when I was working at Omeo, we were at 200,000 landing pages, and then we did some analysis. And apparently, in the past, before I joined, we did some ramp down as well, where we had like 500,000 pages, and we reduced the number to 150,000 or something, right? And then gradually the number increased to 200,000 by the time I joined. So now there were still a lot of intents, a lot of topics for which we had landing pages, but they were no index, or they were not even created. So we did that analysis, and we realized even if we do not go very aggressive with our indexation strategy, right, we need more number of landing pages. And when we did our first analysis to understand where the demand is, and we have the supply data as well, so we should be creating more pages, the number was supposed to reach 1 million, right? So I'm talking about 800,000 new landing pages.
Right.
And here in Berlin, we were paying an agency who were writing content for us 80 euros per content piece, which means if I'm going with this manual approach, first of all, it will take like 500 years to get the content done because it's done manually, right? Second, I would need 800,000 cross 80, that is 64 million euros for getting the content. So of course, I mean, I could not say, hey, we need to raise a fund round for content, right? You can't ask for that. So here, the only solution was finding a solution to scale this content. And I'm talking about multi-language content production. So we tried multiple solutions. In the end, we aligned on a conditional template-based solution, which is called Rose NLG. So we used that machine, produced some content, used some conditional templates to bring uniqueness in the content. And we were confident because the result was pretty awesome. And we generated this content for FAQ kind of content, so that we could also implement FAQ schema and get more SERP on real estate. So we did that. We ran that for a smaller sample set, and the results were actually great because now we were getting more real estate on SERP, right? So our CTR improved massively, and we started to rank for more keywords now, which were now covered in the content. And also for the keywords which were already covered before, right, we started ranking better for them. So it was a win-win from every angle, right? So we were happy with the content. Sorry, you're saying something?
No, I was going to say, what platform do you use for the tracking?
So I'll go there as well, right? Because yeah, so we produced content and then we scaled it up, and now we had content in one language. We were very happy with that. So what we did now, next step was translating this content again using machines. So we used DeepL, which is way better than Google Translate. So we used DeepL to translate content. It works like magic for European languages. And then of course, I didn't want to rely only on machines. So I also included native speakers on top of the process. They were giving me thumbs up that, hey, this content looks good. So English to German translation, perfect. Let's go with this, right? English to Spanish, English to Finnish, Swedish, French. So all these languages we translated, and I got thumbs up from everyone, right? There were some languages, for example, English to Swedish, I think was not great, right? So we added, some tweaks here and there, but in the end, we got the desired outcome. So that's how we translated content using machines plus us, like native speakers on the top of the process, and we pushed that as well, and the result were amazing again. And about, now coming back to your question, how did we track that? So
before that, just to stick on the languages, and then we can come to that. So it's all getting mixed up. Sure. But you said English wasn't particularly good. English is
no, I said English to Swedish translation wasn't good.
But you were starting in English. Did you try translating into English or not at all?
We did that as well. So what we were doing was just to validate only through machine. So we translated from English to German and then German to English back to see, now how does my English content look? The reverse translated version. So we did that for validation. But for us, getting content in English was inexpensive, right? Because there are a lot of English speakers all over the world, right? But if you are looking for Swedish speakers, you won't find so many. That's why the content in Swedish and other languages that was expensive.
And how good was the translation once you'd gone to German, then back to English? Was it still reasonable?
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. Yeah. For German was pretty good. Italian, Spanish, And I think like most of the European languages, it was pretty good, except for some languages.
Swedish, for example. Now, the tracking tool you use when you're doing it at this kind of scale.
Yeah. So for tracking, we actually built like our own tool using multiple data sources, right? So yeah. So and it was basically a dashboard where we were pulling data from different sources. For example, for position tracking, we wanted to understand how we are doing for the keywords we were already ranking for. We were using SEMrush for that. And then for understanding how does our organic keyword cluster look, which is like how many keywords we're ranking for today versus tomorrow, right? How it's expanding or not, right? For that also, we were using SEMrush. That works pretty good for European languages keyword tracking. Yeah, so that was our default tool for this. And then we wanted to understand CDR. For that, of course, Google Search Console, that's pretty handy. But we were using Google Search Console APIs to pull this data so that we have access to more data than what you get in the UI tool there. Yeah, in the interface. Yeah. So yeah, that's how we were collecting all this data. And then we were also collecting data from our backend sources about revenue, because we were interested in knowing, okay, we're getting more traffic, we're getting better CTR, how much does it bring for us, right?
Which
Which
is the question traditionally SEOs often forget to ask.
Yes, exactly.
One more thing that you want to share, which is a specific problem for enterprise that other SEO projects don't have. Off you go.
What is the problem that enterprise SEO mostly faces?
One more problem that you think is hugely important that you need to share before the end of the show.
Yeah, I think we spoke about scale and complexity. We also spoke about organizational silos and technical concerns. I think another big problem is governance and decision making. So in case of enterprise SEO, sometimes it just takes forever, right? Even if you're talking about A/B testing, it takes forever because you need to do a lot of impact analysis. You need to justify every single resource who would be involved in that. And sometimes when you start working on it, you get an estimation, which is, for example, X days, right? And when you start working on that, you realize it was 100X days. That is also possible. So estimation also can go completely wrong, right? And now here, the reason why I mentioned like you should not think about going all in, because if let's say you are involving a team of 10 folks who are working on a project and it takes 6 months, and then you say, hey, it was a failure, it didn't work, that's totally fine if the project fails, right? But wasting 10 full-time resources for 6 months, that's really problematic. So if you could think about an MVP where you probably need just 2 resources, couple of weeks, and there you can prove whether it is working for you or not, I think that is much better than going for the approach which I mentioned before about.
Brilliant. So work smart. Yeah. Absolutely lovely. That was brilliant, Nitin. I didn't know any of that stuff. So next question, last question. How important is branded search for enterprise SEO?
Well, it is very important. I think it plays a massive role because branded search for me is a mix of a lot of things. Once, all the branded efforts you're putting, and second, your experience as well. If you're landing on a website, you're liking it, you are thinking that, okay, this is the place I want it to be, right? So next time you'll go on SERP and you'll probably do a branded search to land on the website again, right? That also defines how important your website is or how good your user experience is, which can retain these users with you forever. So I think it definitely plays a massive role. And also, when someone is searching for your brand, if you're not considering branded search at all, and maybe there are a lot of negative reviews and people are just talking about negative stuff about your brand, before even you get the click, you will lose that user once for all. So I think you should also be thinking about that, like what people are talking about your brand. And that is, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is also part of branded search, how you are looking at brand presence on the web, right? So I think that is also very crucial.
Yeah, I think you've made 2 huge points. Number one is obviously online reputation management, the reviews. But the other is the obvious point that a lot of companies don't think about is once we know the brand name, we search the brand name to navigate to the website. And every time we navigate to the website through Google, we see that brand SERP. It needs to be hugely impressive. Thank you so much, Nitin. That was wonderful and a great conclusion for a branded search and beyond with Jason Barnard. And we're going to pass the baton to Philippe VanDusen. Build a powerful personal brand with content. Brand, personal, content, powerful. Perfect.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be more than happy. And I think it's a pleasure, passing the baton here. So Philip VanDusen is next on the list. He's amazing. I was just checking his, like presence online. He's brilliant. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I think I can learn a lot because that's a topic which I need to work a lot on as Jason presented as well today. I'm really looking forward to it. And I think everyone who is watching this should also be signing up for this. This is going to be awesome.
Brilliant. Yeah, you were talking about personal branding, how important it is. It's been for you just setting up your business and getting started. It's hugely important to me as well. And Philip is going to share his secrets next week. Thank you, everyone, for watching. That was absolutely wonderful. And Nitin, you get the outro song, of course. A quick goodbye to end the show. Thank you, Nitin.
Thank you so much, Jason. It was lovely catching up.
Absolutely brilliant. Kalicube. It's all about your brand SERP.